Kidding me?
I'm sorry.
You're destroyed in that hand. Yeah, that's a professional move.
That was luck, Steve. That was. Let's go.
Like the straights are coming.
Let's go. What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog here again at Seminole Casino Coconut Creek for my weekly 5-10 game. Starts off a little bit slow for the first hour or so until I scoop a bomb pot where I get it all in with top pair and a flush draw and go runner straight versus a set and win $3,000 here. First real hand of the night comes when I raise under the gun with pocket queens. I get 4 callers here, so 5 ways to a 10-2-2 flush draw board. When it checks to me, I decide to check, and the button puts out a $150 bet back over to me. I think a lot of the time here she's going to have a 10 when she bets into all these players, or even a flush draw, so I'm going to raise my hand up for value here and protection. I make it $500 to go. Other players get out of the way. Button thinks for a while and releases her cards. You ever see a guy in the bathroom and his dick doesn't measure up to like I accidentally saw him. Not gay at all. But like this skinny small dude just had like a fucking hog in the bathroom.
At Coconut Creek?
Right here, when I was in the bathroom, right now.
Cool.
I flop a set on an ace-high board. When it checks to me, I bet small here, $100. I only get 1 caller from the under-the-gun player. Her name is Jessica. She traveled about an hour to get to this game. Unfortunately for her, she's in a bad spot here versus my middle set. Turn card's a king. She checks, and I bet small again, thinking she's most likely going to have an ace here. I don't want to scare her away. I make it $225, and Jessica comes along with a call again. Final card pairs the board, giving me a full house. She checks, and of course I'm going to bet, but again, I just don't really want to scare her off here. I want to get paid, so I just make it $500, and when she snap calls my bet, definitely could have bet bigger. I showed the pocket nines for a full house. She flashes an ace, and a little bit of run good early on here, scooping a bomb pot, and then flopping a set versus top pair, but just hold your horses a little bit. Things are about to get much crazier throughout this session. I got a lot of big hands this session, so it doesn't slow down here. Pocket queens again, I raised to 75. 2 callers now, and we're going 3 ways to 9-4-9 with 2 spades. Obviously, we could be losing 2 pocket 4s or a 9, but we're beating all other pairs, ace highs, flush draws. I make it $75, 1/3 size of the pot, and the big blind comes along with a call. Turn, pretty excellent. It's a queen, giving me top full house. 2 full houses here very early on. When she checks to me, I decide to trap and check this one back. Final card, king of spades. Now praying she's got something like a flush or maybe a slow played pocket 4s or a 9. When she checks, I make it $300. She thinks, and this time lets her cards go. I definitely had you. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I might actually call because I had a pair also, but
You had pocket 3s, right?
The run good somewhat slows down here in a double board PLO bomb pot, which we do every single dealer change. I flop trips on the top board and the nuts on the bottom board, and I end up getting 3/4 here versus another player with a straight and losing to a full house on top. I went to Target a few days before this game, and I decided to buy some toy fish to hand out during the game, somewhat as a ironical joke. Also came up with the idea of giving them out every single time you win a hand, and the goal is to try to collect as many fish as you can. If you lose a hand, though, you lose your fish. I've got 1 fish in front of me in King Jack offsuit. I call a raise for $75 and go 5 ways to a Jack high flop. I decided to lead out for $200 on this board, and only the initial raiser makes the call. Turn card is a nice one. It's another Jack, giving me trips. I bet out $800 this time, and my opponent folds.
It's ridiculous.
This game has turned action-packed. We were playing $500 to $1,000 pots, and now pretty quickly we're playing $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000 pots. A lot of chips being moved around the table, and there's some big pots yet to come. I've just been somewhat cruising along in this session. In the game for $4,000, have well over an $8,000 stack. And oh yeah, I've got a fish in front of me as well. Leading into this next hand where I'm on the button and I raise 8-9 suited to $100 over a limp. I get a couple callers and flop very well on a King 8-8 board. The two players check to me, I bet 1/3 size of the pot, $100. Small blind now raises me to $300. Other player gets out of the way, action back over on me, and we most likely have the best hand here. I mean, I have trips with a 9 kicker. I could be losing to a better trips. My opponent never has pocket kings for a full house. I decide to slow play and trap here and just make the call. The turn card is a non-consequential low card, a 4 of hearts. And my opponent continues now for a fairly small bet according to the size of the pot. $300 to go again. Now I'm almost positive he has a hand like King Jack, King Queen, King 10. Don't think he has Ace King because I think he would 3-bet that hand pre-flop. I just make the call again for $300 and the final card is a Jack. Only now losing to pocket Jacks, which really doesn't make much sense if he has that hand. Action on the small blind, he bets out $1,000 now. I decide to not even think about it and just snap call. I show my 8-9 for trips, and my opponent shows King Jack for top 2 pair. Wow, I missed out on so much value there, but I have a couple reasons behind this. One is, in my own game, I don't want to be always going for blood and for the kill and trying to get every single last cent and dollar out of my opponents in these kind of games. And also, the waitress was behind me trying to get the drink and food order. For the table, I was a little distracted. Being distracted probably cost me another $2,000, but I'm happy with the pot, how it was. A few hands later, I raised to $400 with pocket aces. This hand isn't too crazy. I end up betting the flop, checking the turn, betting the river, and my opponent folds. I win around $700 here. Jessica, let me see your fish. Jessica, let me see your fish.
Oh, my fish?
Yeah, there you go.
My beautiful fish?
There they are. She's got 2. This is it. About a half an hour later, I have collected 1 fish, and I'm trying to collect some more. So when the button raises, I call in the small blind with 5-4 offsuit. The big blind 3-bets to 225. After the button calls 225, I say, hell, let's just call. Let's see a flop. 5-4 offsuit to a flop 3 ways out of position to 10-6-7. Open-ended straight draw for me. Action checks all the way around, and the turn card is a good one. It's a 3, giving me a straight. I lead out now for $600. Big blind folds, but the button comes along with a call. Final card is the Jack of Spades, and I'm going to bet fairly big here. Pretty polarized in my betting. I feel like I'm going to be bluffing here, or I'm going to have a very strong hand. Maybe potentially get my opponent to hero call me with a small to medium pair. I make it $1,500 to go.
Call.
Straight.
Oh, 9-8. No, 4-5.
Whoa.
Lucky one.
Nice hand.
Very lucky. 2 fish. This is it, guys. All right, let's get into the hand of the night. I'm on the button, very next hand after the small blind hand where I made a straight with 5-4 offsuit. And I will preface this by saying we've already ordered 2 bottles of wine and finished both of them. There's definitely been some drinking on the sidelines here today. I've got 2 fish in front of me trying to collect 1 more. I get dealt in and look down at 5-4 offsuit again. Very odd. I just grab a stack of green chips over 2 limps and raise it here to an amount that I'm not really sure what it is. But I feel like once raising here to this sizing, unless someone has a monster, they're just going to fold and I'm going to take down this dead money. Back over to the first limper who called $25. He looks over at me, looks at my stack, and now makes the call for $525. Now, this opponent is my friend Steve, who I've been playing with for a few years now. He has a pretty massive stack for this game. He's got around $12,000 in front of him, and I've been running like God this entire session, so I actually cover him. And just like that, we are playing over a $1,000 pot. With 5-4 offsuit, we're going heads up here in position to 10-6-3 rainbow, giving me an open-ended straight draw. When Steve checks to me, I bet out $1,000, one pumpkin orange chip, and now things get weird. Steve check raises me to $3,000 and then intensely stares at me while I'm thinking. Well, we have some options now. We're sitting super deep stack, so I could call this $2,000 raise and try to hit a 7 or a 2 on the turn, but I don't really like that option because unless I hit my straight on the turn, I'm most likely going to face a $5,000 or $6,000 bet, so I'm basically calling $2,000 for just one single card. Now, I could take the tight nitty route, which this entire hand has been the complete opposite, and I could just fold my equity, relinquish my cards, and then I have to give away my fish that I truly worked so hard to earn. I don't really like that option. There is a third option, and that is potentially to put in another raise. Now, if we go back to pre-flop, I don't think Steve's going to have too strong of a hand on this board. He just called $25, and then when I raised to $525, he just called that bet out of position, meaning I don't think he's ever going to have an overpair like jacks, queens, kings, and aces. I don't think he's going to have pocket tens either. Shouldn't have any two pairs on this board like 10-6, 10-3, or 6-3 when he calls $500 out of position. So basically here when he raises to 3K, I think he thinks that I'm making a move on the button, and if he has a hand like pocket 8s or pocket 9s or ace 10 or jack 10, he may think that hand is good and he's raising for protection. I think if I go over the top, he's basically going to fold out every single hand but pocket 6s and pocket 3s. After some deliberation in my head, I decide I'm going to go with option number 3. If I put in another raise, I can put max pressure on his one pair holdings, and if I somehow run into a monster and get called, well, I'll be able to run out the board 2 times and pray to hit a 7 or a 2. So I take a deep breath, I close my eyes, and I announce all in for over $12,000. All in. All in.
Call.
Okay, you're ahead.
Don't pair the board. Please don't pair
No, you're way ahead.
Please don't pair the board.
I have 4-5. Wait, two times.
Two times.
Well, as you can see, I stepped right into it. Steve has one of those hands I just never thought he would have. 10-3 suited for 2 pair on the flop. He snap calls my bet, and we're all in here for a $25,000 pot. I've got 5 high. Now, I do have some outs. Could go runner, 5-5 or 4-4. Could just hit a 7 or a 2. All I know is I got to get lucky if I want to get some money back. 2 boards. Let's see what happens. Oh! Oh my God. I somehow hit a miracle 7 on the first turn and fade the full house to lock up half of this $25,000 pot. The second board comes off with the 8 of hearts, giving me even less outs because Steve now has a flush draw and 2 pair. I only have 5 cards that can help me. Let's see if we can get there one time. Keep it small. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, sorry, Steve. That's
It's chopped?
No, I hit it straight both. I hit it straight on both. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Sorry, Steve. That's
Are you
bad.
kidding me?
Oh my God. I hit a 7 for a straight on the first run out and then find a 7 on the river for the second run out to scoop a $25,000 pot. I got it all in with 5 high with around 30% equity, and I somehow scoop versus 2 pair. I did have Steve completely covered, so all of his chips are going in my direction. Now, Steve isn't taking this bad beat too well. He's got some choice words for me, but hey, I don't blame him. One of the sickest bad beats that I've ever seen, honestly. I decided to stop the recording now, follow Steve outside where we do some talking, do a little therapy, consoling, and after about 10 minutes, he's cooled down and ready to play again. Getting back to my seat, I collect my chips and realize I have almost a $27,000 stack at this 5-10 game. About an hour later, I pick up aces. I raise to $100. Button calls and Steve calls. We go 3 ways to 8-3-4 rainbow. Checks to me, I bet out $200. Button calls and Steve calls. Turn card's a queen. I'm going to continue to bet here. I make it $500, and only the button calls this time. And I get a great river when it pairs the board with another 4. I'm just going to go for 3 streets of value. I just highly doubt my opponent has a 4 after calling $500 on the turn. I don't think he's got a full house here. I've got the best pocket pair, so I bet out $1,700. Now, this entire session, I've just been running so good. I've hit full houses and sets and 2 pairs and trips and straights, and I feel like my image now might not look the best. It may look like there's no way Lex can always have it, so I feel like I could get called a little bit later here. The button thinks and thinks, and eventually he does put in the call. We get paid off here with aces, which is going to be one of the last big pots I play. I end up playing for another hour and a half. At my high point, I had over a $31,000 stack, but I lost 2 bomb pots, losing around $3,000. But as you can see, still came away with a good profit. Around 1 a.m., the game breaks. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this one. One word to describe this session is wow. Oh my God, that was just insane. I don't think I've ever ran that good in my entire life. Not only was I hitting hands, sets and straights and 2 pairs and aces, but all my hands were holding up. I was never getting bad beat. And also, every single one of my opponents had something to call me down with. So I was getting paid off on every big hand. It was just insane. And then, of course, the hand of the night, potentially the hand of the month, maybe even the hand of the year. I raised to $500 to 5-4 offsuit. I go all in, 3-bet all in as a semi-bluff for $12,000 and get called by 10-3 suited for 2 pair, and I get there twice with a straight. Just sick. One of the worst beats that I've seen. Obviously, I've seen some bad beats. I've seen some 1-outers and some 2-outers before, but for this magnitude of this game, I mean, it was a $25,000 pot in a 5-10 game. We're never that deep. It was just like 2 big worlds collide and just explode into a massive pot. So I'm going to lose that pot like 70% of the time. Somehow I found the win twice, and it was just insane. I mean, I'm really glad I got it on camera. Also, my friend who lost the hand, he's basically known as like Phil Hellmuth's brother. He has all sorts of Phil Hellmuth-ish tendencies and stuff where, you know, he'll blow up at the table, but it's all in good fun, and, you know, whatever. I would feel the same way if I lost a 25K pot, but it was insane. I ended up getting in the game for $4,000, cashing out for $27,400 for a $23,000 profit. That's pretty sure that's the biggest profit I've ever had in my entire life. I've had some big wins on live streams, but I haven't had 100% of my action on all live streams. Last night I had 100% of my action. That was all my money, and it was just insane. The biggest win of my life, the best run good I've ever had, one of the luckiest pots I ever won. But I was feeling a couple feelings last night. One, I was feeling like winner's guilt. So I put this game together. Every single person that came to the game last night, I invited. Some people traveled a longer way. Some people were fans of the vlog. Some people were friends of mine, and a lot of them were friends of mine. And I was feeling like guilty almost because I was running so good and just like, hey, come to my game, stack. Hey, come to my game. Went, you know, it like was feeling weird. But at the end of the day, it's poker. Hopefully we're all playing poker with money that we are able to lose with, and it's a competition. Some days you're going to win, some days you're going to lose. Sometimes you're going to have the aces, sometimes you're going to have the kings and you're going to get cracked and you're going to lose your stack. Sometimes you're going to win. So I was feeling a little bit guilty, but also I'm trying to host a fun, friendly game that people can't really go to. I mean, it's very hard to find a game full of just friendly, fun, action-packed, nice people, and that's what I'm trying to do with this game. It's very hard to find that anywhere, to find a game where all 9 players are on the same level and everyone's nice and friendly and talkative and cool, and that's what I'm trying to create with this game. My goal is to try to just create a fun environment where people enjoy playing, and I feel like last night definitely was the perfect mixture of that, where I had a lot of people that were just good for the game, fun, and it was exciting. It was crazy. Obviously, running like God helped, but $23,000 win, just insane. Hoping to continue on with these games. I mean, I've ran this game now 10 times, and yesterday was obviously my biggest win, but I had some big losses previous to that. I've lost some of the days like pretty big, but no more poker talk now. I'm going to do a little bit of a story time. So doing this game, running this game, created a bunch of feelings that I had when I was younger. So putting on this game, hosting this game, it's a ton of stress, and it brings on anxiety and stuff because I am trying to put out the best product possible. There's very little things that I do in life where I do 100%. A lot of things in life, I'm kind of like, a little lazy here and there, a little so-so, but there's some things that I go 100% at. Wrestling was one of them, competing in CrossFit was one of them, poker, YouTube, and then now this poker game. I'm trying to make it the best poker game possible, make sure everybody's happy, make sure everyone has exactly what they need, and it's very tough. It's a ton of things that were going through my mind, and it reminded me back when I was younger in high school. So I grew up and I was born in Washington, D.C., and then in the mid-90s, my parents moved to Western Maryland, Garrett County, Maryland, way out west in the little point of Maryland close to West Virginia. It's out in the country, it's beautiful, mountains, snow, lakes, all sorts of stuff. So we moved there in the 90s, and back when it was affordable to build your own house, my parents built a house like way out in the country, like miles away from other neighbors. And we had a house there. Then they also bought a small lake cabin on Deep Creek Lake. So we had a small lake cabin, and then we had our real house, and they were about 25 minutes apart. So what we did when I was younger and throughout high school was we would spend 9 months at the real house. Then we would go to the lake cabin during the summer and spend 3 months there. We did that back and forth for years and years and years. And my sophomore year in high school, I was friends with some older people and some seniors and juniors. And around that time was when people were getting into partying. People were hosting parties and getting into drinking and getting into drugs. And in high school, I didn't do any of that stuff because I was trying to become a good wrestler and a state champion wrestler and try to make it to college. But I still liked going to the parties, talking to girls, talking to people, laughing, playing beer pong with water, So I went to a bunch of parties in my sophomore year, and I was like, I could do better than this. Like, this basement party sucks. Like, there's no music, there's no food. And then like we would have a party in a field somewhere, and I'm like, this sucks. There's mosquitoes everywhere. It's dark, whatever. So I'm talking with my friend Cody in biology class my sophomore year, and I think to myself, shit, I got 2 houses to choose from. My parents are at the one house, and the other house is completely empty. So we planned like this insane, awesome party my sophomore year where my parents were at the lake cabin, and it was early fall. So we had the real house all to ourselves. So I invited a bunch of people out there, and it was a bunch of stress and there was anxiety because I was trying to make it the best party possible. I got food, I got drinks, I got beer. Somehow I got a bunch of beer. I got, sleeping bags and snacks. And I tried to think to myself, like, what would people want at midnight? What do you think? What are people going to want to do at 3 a.m.? Like, are they going to want, how about waters, Gatorade, Pedialyte, chocolate, all these kind of snacks and stuff like that. And I ended up doing that throughout the next couple of years where I would host a party at the opposite house of where my parents were at. And it was always banger parties. They were awesome. And it ended in one huge party. This was my freshman year of college in the summer, where I tried to go as big as possible, and I posted on Facebook. The address of my lake house, the day of the party or whatever, and it turned out to be the biggest mistake that I made because the party was insane. It was at a little lake cabin. There was about 100 yards of lakefront, and it's a small little area, and like 350 people showed up from all across the county, old people, young people. It was insane. It was the craziest party that I'd ever thrown, and it was way out of hand. There was cars parked like a half a mile down the road. People were drinking all over the place, and it was wild. The cops ended up getting called. One state trooper came out at like midnight, and he looks around and he goes, "Who lives here?" And I come up, and at the time I was 20 or 21, and I go, "It's me." And he's like, "How many people here are 21? And I go, "I think they're all 21. I mean, I don't know, how am I supposed to know who's 21 and who's not?" So I go, "I think they're all 21. He goes, "All right, I don't want anyone drinking and driving," and he leaves. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So we keep partying all night, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning now, and I go back to go to sleep, in the lake cabin. And in the cabin, you can sit, and there was big windows that looked out into the lake access in the front. So basically, if I'm sitting on the couch, if it was daytime, I could see the whole view into the lake. Now it's nighttime, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'm sitting on the couch and I can see the bonfire going down there. A couple people are still there, some other people are sleeping, whatever. I wake up like an hour later, and the bonfire that used to be about 3 feet high was 20 feet high, like roaring bonfire I had never seen before in my life. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Huge fire. I run down there, and my idiot friends, a couple of my idiot friends, went over to my neighbors, stole their swing set of like beautiful lacquered wood, a massive swing set, ran it over to our place and threw it into the fire, and it caught fire and made a huge bonfire, burnt all the way down to the ground. The next day there was just ash everywhere. The neighbors came over, they called the police came back, and they kind of threatened the kids like, hey, you know, you better pay or whatever. So the kids ended up having to pay for the swing set, and that ended up being the last party I had ever thrown. But the moral of the story is hosting these games is kind of like trying to host those parties, where I was trying to host the best party I could, trying to make sure everything's good. And it's a lot of stress during the party. It's a lot of stress leading up and anxiety, hoping it's going to go well. But I remember the next day, after every party I threw, the next day I'd wake up and my friends would be there. We'd all be kind of tired or hungover. We'd be cleaning up and we'd be talking about how cool the party was, the things that happened last night and whatever. And I kind of get that same feeling from this game where, you know, the next day I wake up and I just laugh about all the funny things that happened, about the crazy pots, and, you know, I can go back through my footage and watch and listen. So, yeah, little story time for you guys. Long video, hope you enjoyed it. Next up, I'm going to Vegas and I'm going to be playing Hustler Casino Live. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see ya.